What's up everybody, Sam Myers here. Today I want to show you how to make the bass to Supersonic by Skrillex, Noisia, Josh Pan, and Dylan Brady. Now before we get started today, if you are watching this video, then you have probably seen some of my other videos. And if you're not yet subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and subscribe, and also go ahead and give this video a like to help with that YouTube algorithm. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Let me play the sound we're going to make today. And then there's the second part. So it's a couple layers of a bass. I'll play it with some drums that I just made, and I wasn't trying to replicate the drums of the track exactly, so just to get the vibe, I put in these drums. And then the second part. So that's the bass we're gonna make. Now I've got these three layers and I grouped them together so that I could process them all the same by adding some erosion, a phaser, and then this is going to be the sidechain compressor. So the erosion, I have this wide noise, which adds this like width to the noise. So if I just solo this, and then add on the noise, you can probably hear some more of that noise coming in from both sides of your headphones or your speakers. And I have a phaser to add on a phaser effect because in the original, I hear it almost like phasing back and forth. So I was trying to replicate that, and I tried adding on a phaser and then did some stuff to the synth, which I'll show you pretty soon. And then also for the actual distortion on the synth in the track, I don't know what he used. Maybe he used like isotope trash. I tried to just use mostly the distortion in the Serum synth, and then just adding on the erosion for the distortion. A lot of times in a bass house lead, you'll have one oscillator that is like -3 octave, and then a second oscillator that is up 4 semitones. So you get this ringing sound, this high-pitched ringing sound. It sounds like that if I play it. But if you actually listen to the track, you can hear that the lower note is changing independently of the higher note. So what I had to do is I just put on one oscillator and then played both of the notes in the MIDI. So I have this lower note, and then I've got the higher note, and then I play them together. Now you can see that lower note switch before that higher note switches. Let me take off all of these plugins off of the group, and I'll show you how we can make this high one from scratch. Let me go ahead and initialize that preset. We can just use the default preset. Now I can already hear that buzzing sound coming through. So we've got the default preset, and then I'm going to add on a bit of movement back and forth with the panning. I'm going to go into my matrix and do source chaos, and then set the amount to like 50, and set the destination to my oscillator pan, and click on this button so it goes both ways. And now the panning is going to randomly move back and forth, and this helps me achieve what I hear in the track where we've got that phasing, and so I'm just doing it with this panning knob. And just making it completely random. I'm going to add on a filter and go into the multi, so let's do the LPH24. And if I raise up this morph, then it becomes more of like just a high pass type of filter. I'll raise up this resonance and then raise up the drive. And I'll set this cutoff to maybe around 2 kilohertz. And then it will sound like that. And I will add on my distortion. I'm going to do a diode 1 distortion. And then I'm going to go to my effects and add on a compressor. I'm going to do the multi-band compressor. And let's go ahead and rearrange that to make it look a bit nicer. And I'll add on the diode distortion, and I'll set the drive and mix to about 90%. And that's how we're really going to get that buzzy distortion sound. In the actual track, it's a bit high passed. So what I'll do is I'll use a filter to do the high pass, leave it at this MG low 6, and raise up the cutoff to about 2 kilohertz or so. And raise up my drive and fat again. Now because I'm going to be adding another layer that's going to be the low layer, I'm going to add on a low cut and cut out the low end. Layer. Now that's basically going to be the high layer. Now let's go onto this middle layer, and I'm going to duplicate the synth onto this middle layer and just play an E note. And then as you can hear, I'm using a pitch bend, and I'm going to add the pitch bend to this middle note and also the higher note. Let me play these together. That's how you do that pitch bend. But this middle note, I need to filter off some of the high end. Like that. And then also, I don't think that I need that middle note to be panning back and forth. So I'm going to go back to the matrix and remove the chaos 1 for that middle note. And then that's all that I'll do to get that middle note sound. Let's move on to the lower layer. Now basically the lower layer is just going to be playing the bass notes. This is going to be the MIDI. And I want to add some noise to this lower layer. So some like white noise sound and also just maybe some width. So I'm going to add on the sub. And then I'll add on a analog. Let's do alpha NZ. And then for my width, I'll just take this oscillator A, raise it up the unison to 3. It's pretty quiet right now, but I'm gonna add on the filter, just do like low 18, and I'll raise up that cutoff. And I'm just gonna turn it on for A. So it's really quiet right now, but I'm going to add on some distortion, and I'll do the sine shaper distortion, set that drive to about 30% and lower the mix. And then I'll add on some EQ just to boost that low end. And roll off that top end. And I might just go ahead and add a boost, like a bell curve instead of that low shelf. And I think that's all I'll do for that low. And let's go ahead and just play them all together now. I'll play the low, the middle, and the high together. And that's what they sound like all together. Now I'm going to add on my group effects. I'll add on the erosion. Now we're almost adding in some high end back into the sound, but adding some of that just high end noise width. And instead of it just being a mono noise, I'm using the wide noise. So we get more of that stereo effect. And then I'm adding on this phaser at about 40% using one pull. Just look at these settings. It's not like an intense phaser, really just to widen the sound a bit more. And then with the compressor. So you can see there's some really intense sidechaining going on. And then one more time, we'll play that with the drums. And then at the end there's like a weird chopped and screwed thing to get into like the next section in the actual song. So I'm not going to try and copy that, but that's basically how you'd make that bass sound. It's kind of like a bass house style lead. So what I'll do is I'll provide you this Ableton session for you to download so you can see what I did with the MIDI. And then I'll also provide you these two presets for the high and low. And then I just made another preset that is going to be basically where you have the lower -3 octave and then the oscillator B where it's a +4 semitones. So if you just want to make like a bass lead out of this sound. So if you don't have Ableton, you can just download those presets. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a like, and also please subscribe to my channel if you are not yet subscribed. And if you'd like to check out any of my Serum preset packs, I'll put links down below for those as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.